Hello and welcome to the Photo Bar, the podcast talking all about the business and lifestyle photography while drinking beer. This is episode number 2, Fear and Putting Yourself Out There. Hey and welcome back, guys. My name is Matt Druin and my goal is to help you become a better person, a better photographer, and a better entrepreneur. Before we dive into this episode, I guess I'll tell you a little bit about what I've been up to. Currently, right now, I am booking my travel and getting ready to head out to LA and San Francisco before returning back home to Atlanta for a few engagement sessions, which I'm pretty excited about. I haven't been to California in a few years, so it's going to be good to get back out there and enjoy some of the weather and the beautiful scenery out there, and of course, hang out with some amazing people. I've also been doing a lot of editorial assignments, which has been keeping me really busy in the last few weeks. Other than that, I've been trying to spend a lot of time with my family and with my wife and my son, just because I know my weddings are going to pick up even more than they are, and I'm going to get super busy and have a little bit less time to spend with them until the season is over. So that's what I've been up to. I guess we'll go ahead and jump right into this episode on fear and putting yourself out there. When it comes to trying new things, like putting our work out into the world or anything else in general, there always seems to be some sort of looming fear in the back of our heads, and often this can hold us back from actually doing anything at all. But what is it that we're actually so fearful of? I mean, if we break it all down, maybe it's just the fear of trying something new, or maybe it's the fear of rejection from our family and friends, random people on the internet, or maybe it's just the fear of failure itself. Like, what happens if we try something and we don't succeed? Or we start a new business and it doesn't work out? Or maybe we're trying to start a photography business right now and we are just not making any money. And we're just thinking to ourselves, well, how long can I keep doing this without making money before I call it a failure? Or maybe it's a combination of a few different fears. Or maybe you have a different fear altogether. If you really think about it, though, like, you can only really fail by not trying at all. So you have to start and at least attempt to do it. By not even trying, you've already failed yourself, so you might as well at least start and attempt it and put your best foot forward and really give it your all. We were recently talking about this concept of failure in a mastermind group that I'm a part of, and we came to the conclusion that you really have to try dozens or even hundreds of times to truly find success in something. Rarely does an idea someone has or a business that someone tries really take off for the very first time without any effort or any type of failure. There are tons of failures, countless hours of practice, redoing, remaking, trying different things in a different way, and tons of other things that happen between the concept of the idea and the success of the idea. You can look at all kinds of really successful people like Edison and Dyson and Steve Jobs, or maybe your successful friends, your family members, or even other photographers that we know that are local or not local to us. None of these people had success right out of the gate. They failed a lot. They had many people who criticized them along the way and many other setbacks, but kept working at it until they really achieved what their idea of success was. Then they moved on to the next thing and repeat it. It's just a continuous process that we have to go through in order to become successful at anything in life. Nothing worth having in life is going to be easy and going to be without failure. If it was, then everybody would be doing it and be super successful and never have any issues. As photographers and entrepreneurs, I think a lot of what causes our fears is that we spend way too much time looking at people's highlight reels on Instagram and Facebook and think we'll never be that good at photography, or we will never be booking that many jobs. We'll never be able to do X, Y, and Z. But instead, we should be focusing on our own success and our own growth in our own business. We continuously compare ourselves to others, our skill level, our gear, our situations that we're in, and we feel that we're not good enough, and people will not respect us. They will not like our work, or whatever else that we can come up with in our minds. But we forget that all of that is just a highlight reel. It's just the best of what these people are choosing to show us. Most people are not showing all their failures and setbacks and suffering that it took to get to that point that they're showing us. And they have many more mountains and hills to climb in their journey. And along their path, they're going to fail, they're going to fall, they're going to get right back up and keep going. I mean, maybe you're just starting out, and at this point, you're just on flat ground. You can't expect to be at the top of the biggest mountain in just one day. You have to take baby steps. You have to practice. You have to prepare for the hike. As you make the hike, you're going to slip and fall, and maybe you're going to skin your knee, maybe you're going to break a leg. It's just part of the journey to success. I think rejection is another huge fear I think that we all have, whether it's from our friends or our family, people in the industry, or just people on the internet. No one wants to feel rejected. I mean, it sucks. But it turns out that, we're rejected to different degrees, and it happens to us all the time and every day. When you are putting your work out there online, there's a huge fear of rejection. What will people say? Will it be negative? Will people make fun of me? And all these other things kind of start flooding through our heads. And the online world can be especially cruel. That's for sure. And the fact is that none of these people even know you, and you don't know them. So their opinion of your work and who you are doesn't even matter. It has zero credibility. Most often than not, they're just people with way too much free time on their hands and looking for entertainment by trolling the internet and basically just talking shit. You, on the other hand, are out there doing something. You're practicing, you're hustling, and you're moving forward. Our own minds are often our biggest enemies. We create these over-proportioned scenarios in our heads with the worst ways that things can possibly happen to us. And these become giant monsters just hiding under our beds, and we start to feel paralyzed by this fear of this unknown, of what could potentially happen to us. So how do we actually get over this fear? One way is to stop looking at what everybody else is doing and just do you. Stop judging your own self and just focus on being the best you that you can be, because in the end of the day, that's all you can do, and that's really what's going to sell you to your ideal clients. When I first started photography, it sucked. I fell into the same highlight reel and was watching all these other people do amazing things. I looked at other photographers, their photos, their blogs, and their supposed social media lifestyles, and I just started thinking to myself, man, I'll never be able to do this. It's going to be too hard, and I'll never be that good. I finally started feeling just really stressed and overwhelmed about it all. And then I discovered a well-known photographer, Zach Arias, who told me to stop looking at what everybody else is doing and just put in the hard work. So that's what I did. I stopped looking at all these other blog websites and photographers' websites and social media and everything else, and I just put in the hard work. I kept my head down and just kept on focusing on me and what I needed to do to be the best me that I could. I immediately began to feel all that stress and pressure to be as great as everyone else, just kind of start fading away. So I just practice daily. I continue to practice, and I could look back and see how far I've come at this point. I still keep the very first weddings and jobs that I've ever shot on my blog, and it's not really for clients to see. Although I guess they could, but it's really for no one else to see. It's just for me to be able to look back on and really see how far I've come over the years. I'll actually post a link to my very first wedding in the show notes just for you guys to check out if you want to. And maybe you have the same thing, my very first website, it was complete trash. It was literally an iWeb website that I designed on a Mac. And then over the years, I learned more about web design and SEO and other areas of business, and I improved the website over that time. But the very first one, it was just literally garbage. I don't see how anybody could even have taken me seriously at that point. But, I put it out there anyways, and I just started and just kind of moved on and didn't expect perfection at that time, Another way that we can get over fear is really just to change our perspective and our idea of what success even is. If you're just starting out, maybe success would be just booking your very first job. That would be a huge success. Maybe you didn't make it to the very top of the mountain that you're trying to get to, but you did conquer a small hill, and that's a huge win. Or maybe you're wanting to go full-time as a photographer. Success at that point might be the ability to replace your current job's income from photography. And that's a huge mountain to climb up, but you have to keep moving in order to get to the top of that mountain. For me, my idea of success is being able to support my family with my business but not having to work 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 hours a week. My idea of success is actually measured in my time, not just my money. The more I'm able to support my family while having the free time to spend with them and do what's important to me as far as my hobbies and other passions in my life, the more I feel that I am successful at what I'm doing. The third way that we can kind of start getting over fear is just to start. I mean, whatever it is that's holding you back right now, just start whatever it is that you want to do. Seriously, start right now. Because the longer that we kind of keep putting it off, the longer we keep kind of thinking about things in our head, and the more that's going to hold us back from ever starting to begin with. So start right now. Don't wait until tomorrow or next week or when you have enough gear or all the stars are perfectly aligned, or when you have enough time. Just get out and start right now. Because if you don't, nothing will ever be perfect enough, and you'll never actually do anything. You'll just have this great idea and never actually act on it. And remember, everyone sucks when they first start something new. There are very few people who are just naturally gifted and can just create all this amazing stuff and be super successful at it. It's just like the first time when you rode a bike or you drove a car or started anything. I mean, you had plenty of fear and anxiety and other emotions that were holding you back. But you eventually started, and you fell a few times. Maybe you crashed your bike, got some cuts and bruises along the way. But you learned from those mistakes, and you became a better person and more successful at that task. Nowadays, you probably do all of them without even thinking about it, and you're really good at it. But that's the point of the practice, and going through the failures and learning from those. And the same thing is true with starting off in photography or starting a business or doing anything else. I mean, real living starts at the edge and pushing out of your comfort zone. So we want to try to live there every single day and do as much as we possibly can for a much more rewarding and successful life in everything that we do. Fear is actually one of the reasons why I even started this podcast. I wanted to try something new. I wanted to build new skills and put myself out there and really just kind of get over this fear of being judged by other people and hopefully help others along the way of my journey. The same thing is true with my very first wedding I ever photographed. I mean, I was terrified. I started shooting weddings with nothing but a cheap Nikon D3000, and I think it was like $400 at that time, and I traded a toolbox and Craigslist for it. So I had that and a 50mm lens, and I owned the camera for less than 6 months before I shot my first wedding. And I had no clue what to expect. And I told the couple this up front, hoping that they would just back out and say, never mind, maybe we'll find somebody else with a little bit more experience. That way I wouldn't have to deal with this feeling of being so nervous and scared and fearful of what might happen. But after they hired me, I had no way to turn back. I was reading everything I could online. I was attending the rehearsal, the practice. I was writing down my settings and anything else I really could to kind of get a leg up. But looking back on that one single wedding that I was hoping the couple would back out on, literally has launched my entire photography career. So if I would have backed out because of my personal fears, I may not be where I'm at today, And of course, the more weddings that I did and the more jobs that I shot, the more confident I became until I reached a point to where I could just show up anywhere in any situation and be totally comfortable and know that I can actually perform. I mean, I still get nervous before weddings or really any job, but I have the practice and the experience at this point, so the fear is not as great as it once was. So if you're still suffering with fear and you want to do a little reading to kind of help get over that fear, I would recommend this book called Rejection Proof: How I Beat Fear and Became Invincible Through 100 Days of Rejection. I just got this book in the mail, so I haven't actually read it yet, but it was highly recommended to me by my friend Andrew Helmich, and I trust his opinion, so I'm going to go ahead and throw this out there. I'll put a link to this also in the show notes in case you're interested in reading it. So my challenge for you guys this episode is to start doing. Start living outside of your comfort zone. Start trying something new. Maybe you just start small. Maybe you try something new just once a month, and then you move on to bi-weekly, and then weekly, and then you try something new daily. Maybe you just want to try out a new photo technique or meet some new people, or maybe finally put some of your work out in the world. Hell, start a podcast. Just do something and start living outside of your comfort zone. Lastly, I'll leave you with this. No cookie jar is up too high for a panda that will try and try. That's actually a quote from a show called Frasier. Maybe some of you guys have heard of it, maybe not. But I like it because it's funny and true. We all have to keep trying and trying all the time if we want to be successful at something and want to achieve the goals that we have for ourselves. Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode, but I'd love to hear what you guys think and what your fears are, what's holding you back, and maybe we can work on that together to get everybody moving in the right direction. I've created a Facebook group. It's facebook.com/groups/photo bar podcast, or you can just type in photo bar podcast in the search field. But yeah, I encourage you to check it out and let's start a conversation over there. You can also email me directly at photobarpodcast@gmail.com if you like. And as always, you can check out my work at matthewdrone.com. My Instagram is at mattdrone. My Twitter is at matthewdrone. And my Facebook is at facebook.com/matthewdronephotography. And lastly, I would love it if you can help grow our community by leaving an awesome 5-star review on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, wherever you listen to podcasts at, because it really helps me stay motivated to keep creating the content. But it also really helps other people find the podcast so they can listen, they can join the group, then we'll have more people in the group, and then, there's more of us to help each other out. So if you could take a minute to do that, I would really appreciate it. But other than that, that's going to wrap it up for this episode, and I'll talk to you guys next time.